danger to put it on TV. I'll tell you. It won't take it in the dark.
Nope. We're in the home today of my Grandma Ruth Jamison. The power's out, and we're considering what it used to be like. Grandma, what did people do in the days before there was power?
Use kerosene lamps. Kerosene, you used to call it coal oil. What's the difference?
I don't know.
And we didn't have electric stoves. We had wood-burning stoves. Sometimes you had coal. You could put coal in. You didn't have to change it so much.
So how did you know the lights were out?
The lights, you mean today? Or
Well, back when you were young.
we didn't have any for a long time. There wasn't such a thing. But they had telephones long before then. They had the kind that you'd crank up on the about a 12-party line, and then you'd have two shorts and a long, and you supposed, but everybody else was on the same line. And with some neighbors, when they'd hear the telephone ring, or they'd go listen in to a conversation, and they'd get all the news.
Well, this is before TV, right?
This is way before TV. This is way before electricity in our part of the country.
So you had telephones long before you had
Oh yes.
electricity.
Oh yeah.
And you got a car, a Model T.
Model T. Dad had a model, one of the first Model Ts in Franklin. And he'd buy a Sunday paper, and coming home from church, he'd let me sit on his lap and steer it while he read the paper. That was my first driving.
Did the farm go from a horse-drawn plow to machinery when you were there?
Yes. It was mostly horse-drawn while I was there, and then after I left was when they got the tractors. Dad got a tractor, and he was mowing with it, and got over to the corner, and to make her turn, he didn't remember to turn, and so on. He just yelled out, "Whoa!" The tractor didn't stop like a horse. Went right through the fence. But when I was a kid, I don't remember how old I'd have been. I plowed with 5 head of horses, 3 on the back and 2 in the lead, and I could plow 3 acres a day.
3 a day?
3 a day if I'd.
3, and you had to work hard at it?
3 acres. Oh, you bet you had. You had a two-way plow. That's 2 plows back, and you had to get her going to get in that much.
How old were you when you started plowing fields?
10 or 12.
And how many hours a day did they make you work at it?
Oh, you could work 10 or 12 hours, longer from daylight to dark, to get as much plowed as you could in that length of time.
And you did this because you wanted to get out of the house.
Well, I never stayed in the house very much. I like to be outside more.
Well, your sisters were inside?
I had sisters enough in the house. They didn't need the help in there, and I like to be out with Dad. He'd let me be with the animals. Gave Boyd and I a calf each if we'd feed him. And we had our own pony to ride. A lot more fun outside than sticking in the house.
Oh, well, while we're on, why don't you tell us about bread and duck?
Oh. I used to go to the canyon with Boyd and I'd go to the canyon. Boyd's my younger brother. We'd go to the canyon with Dad and Marla when they'd cut logs and bring them down. They'd bring them down to the sawmill and get them sawed up. And we, up there, Boyd and I Marla and Dad would cut down the trees and trim them, and then Boyd and I'd put the chain on the logs, around the logs, and drag them down to where the wagon was. Then we called that snaking the logs down. And one at noon, after we'd unhitched the horses and brought them over to the wagon to feed them, they said, hurry up, we're going to have bread and duck for dinner." We thought that was great, but where would they get the duck? Because we hadn't heard any shots or anything, or seen any fire. We hurried, got over there, and We had bread and duck. We took our bread and ducked it in the river. That was bread and duck. Mother had sent a bottle of jam with Marlowe, and he'd gone over a rock and broken the jar. So we had bread and duck. Oh, we had a lot of fun though.
You got the.
Get the light
Well,
on.
we could turn the light on and you'd be able to see this if we had electricity.
Luckily, we're shooting on video instead of film.
Thank goodness for batteries, huh?
What about family pictures? How often did you go and have those taken?
We didn't afford those. They did the first 3 kids. And after the first 3, then you don't take any more pictures. That's too expensive. So there were very few
The kids
pictures
are the
taken
pictures.
of us, of Boyd and I. Mostly the first 3.
And the ones of Marlowe when he was a baby, he's probably bald, huh?
Oh, he had a lot of hair when he was growing up. When he was young, I'll show you some pictures sometime of him with a head full of hair.
Oh, tell us about the Model T.
When Gladys was married, Daryl, that's her husband, her fiance, came up in a Model T Ford with a rumble seat. And when they went to Logan to get married in Mother and Dad's car, and Daryl gave us the keys to his Model T. Gave Boyd and I, and says, "Have fun." And we did. We ran that tank, that all the gas he had in it, and went down to town and bought more gas so we could. We went all over the hills gathering flowers.
What do you pay for gas?
Oh, about 20 cents a gallon. No more than that. And we went all over the hills gathering flowers, and had flowers all over the house when they came home.
How did the car work?
How did it start it? You start it, one of you get out and crank, and the other one pull down the spark lever until you got it going, then you'd put it back. Wonder why that?
It took 2 people to start one?
Well, you could do it. You could set it and then run around and shut it back. But of course, there was Boyd and I there, and he do the cranking or one or the other, and then we'd get it going. The first pedal I pushed was on the right, and the left, and I think that was the reverse. No, the first one was forward because we hit the end of the shed. So we knew we had to do the other one to back up. And it was trial and error. But it was fun. We had fun all
You learned how to
day.
drive really quickly.
We did. We had fun all day long with that car.
And say you got stuck, how would you get out?
We didn't get stuck.
Like going up a hill if you couldn't make it.
Oh, if there wasn't enough power, well, you just turn around and back up the hill because there was more power in reverse than there was in low. But we never got stuck. Wasn't any place we couldn't get out of that we went. We went clear from Mapleton, clear up around Charlie Baker's and back down Maple Creek Canyon.
When did you first get electricity, and what did you think about it?
What'd you do with it?
When we first got electricity, it was in about 1919. And before then they had kerosene lamps, and you had to clean the wick, the chimney. It has a wick that you bring up, well, like these lamps over here, and the fire underneath it.
Right.
You turn that off and trim the wick and clean the chimney. And when we got electricity, we didn't have to do that anymore. You just
So you mostly had it just for light bulbs?
light bulbs. Well, for lights. Then we also had kerosene lanterns that you could take out to the barn or take outside. You'd carry around. Have you seen any of those old ones? Well, sometime we ought to get one just for keepsake.
What's the first appliance you had that worked on electricity?
And for ironing, we didn't have your electric irons. I'll show you. You put that in and put that on the iron and on the stove.
So
And
when
then-
it was hot, did you just lay your clothes like
Then
on
you
a
had-
table or something?
No, you had an ironing board.
Oh, okay.
And for the little lace and so on, they had a smaller one. And you could just put that on and off. Wait a minute. Then you just lock it. You could lift that and you can iron in little stuff. But these were, and in the winter time, we put these either on the stove or have some in the oven and put them in an old sock and put them in our bed to get the bed warm.
Yeah.
Either that or a brick, because, man, those old beds were cold.
Didn't have central heating.
No, the bedrooms were closed off, so you could keep the heat in the kitchen. And you're lucky if you kept one room warm. And but many and many a night I've taken a hot iron bed to warm the bed up. You put it in under the covers and rub it up and down a little bit, and then you put it on your feet. You have a big,
The big bell.
well, what do they call that, megaphone?
Mm-hmm.
But you wind that up, and it's like it had a spring on it, and you could play your tunes. And they had the one with little round cylinders,
Uh-huh.
and they had recorded Grandfather's voice on that.
On a wax, one of those old
No,
wax.
it was like a celluloid.
Oh.
Celluloid, what would you call it? It was like Bakelite, only it's before Bakelite.
It sure would be fun to get that out and play it.
Well, when Paul got the home and all that stuff was in the basement, he just took it up to the dump.
Oh,
And that would have been valuable to kept some of that
Yeah.
stuff. But he just took it to the dump because he didn't want any of the old junk around.
so which, when you say Grandpa, who would that have been?
Cecil, well, when Grandpa would be Cecil Woodward. Oh, Grandpa, that I'm talking about his voice, that was William Woodward's voice.
William Woodward's voice.
Uh-huh,
Who actually crossed the plains,
uh-huh.
a handcart.
That's all.
Well, not in it.
And he walked, and walked, and walked.
There's a song that says that.
Uh-huh.
He must have inspired that.
And walked,
Uh,
and walked, and walked.
And he was in the Willie's Handcart Company that walked and walked in the snow.
Mm.
And so many of them didn't make it.
Was he the one that somebody ate his boots?
So they swiped the boots. Someone in the company swiped the boots, and he wanted, the lady in Salt Lake said, "Did you ever find those boots?" And he said, "No." And she said, "Would you like to know what happened to them?" And he says, "I've always wondered what happened to those boots." And she said, "I took them." She said, "And I boiled them up." She said, "Boiled the water off twice, and then boiled them more and fed that to my kids, and it saved their lives."
Wow.
And I questioned that. I thought, well, that's just a made-up story. And I read years later where you could do that, and there was enough protein that you could get out of the water, the old leather, that it would sustain life. But wouldn't that taste good?
Yeah.
Get you guys to even eat some good soup.
Well, there's a good reason to not to buy like the nylon shoes and to get the good leather instead of vinyl.
The vinyl, though, I don't think there'd be much food value in
Go old.
Except we
Well, if
so
you
much
had to-
polish on.
somebody.
If you had to revert from using electricity back to the old ways, you think you can get
Oh.
along without it?
They didn't use the doorbell.
Doorbell doesn't work now, huh?
I missed.
Now. Oh.
Sailing through those branches. Ugh.